Yo, what up, everybody? It's your boy Dio Stewart. Today I just got an update for y'all. I've been aiming on doing some updates here and there. I used to do like an update vlog type ordeal all the time for my Patreon, which I kind of started slacking on. I haven't done anything to that in forever, so I apologize. I don't know if I'm going to keep on doing these, but I was thinking about doing just like maybe a monthly update, quarterly update, something. I know I haven't done it in a while, so here we are. But today is sometime in November. I don't know when I'm going to upload this, but it's NaNoWriMo. And I decided to go ahead and participate in Nano this year. In the past I have, times I haven't. Usually I just kind of do a little bit of whatever I want. This year, I'm not just working on one project. I'm going to be jumping all over the place. If y'all know me, my mind's just constantly going. Keep coming up with other things. I can't just focus on one thing. Yeah, if y'all been to my website, y'all know that I've got a lot of projects I'm currently working on or want to work on at some point in the future. As well as I've done videos on here about it. I think there's like 20 plus different books I want to publish at the moment. I figured this year what I'm going to do is just go and try to complete what's been started. Try to get that first draft done. Try to outline the ones that have not been outlined. Go through the outlines that have been outlined and flesh them out a little bit better. And maybe possibly start writing on them. So it's a lot of different projects. So I'm not just sitting and working on one story for 50,000 words. But hopefully with all these outlines and all these little bits here and there of all these other stories, I can get 50,000. That's my goal. So I'm just going to kind of go through some of these and kind of talk about some of these projects. So start off with, for my fantasy, The Gift of a Child. All of these over here that you're going to see are just mock-up covers that I've done with AI generated apps and stuff like that I've came across and kind of tweaked it a little bit, as well as added the text and stuff to it. So these are not the final covers. It's just a placeholder in a sense, for reference, so you get more of a feel. But The Gift of a Child, I started years ago. I had this concept of wanting it to be like a dark fantasy, maybe possibly YA. I knew I wasn't going to make it as big as METAGORE, but I had the hardest time working on it because my mind is constantly going, and my outlines are pretty thick, and I was trying to outline for this, and it just wasn't coming out. And I came to the realization the problem was I was trying to make it longer than what it needed to be. I was trying to make it like METAGORE, like 100,000+ words, when it did not need to be that long. I think it's currently under 15,000 right now. So, or like right at it. I think under. If I can remember correctly, I don't know. But regardless, it is very short compared to that. It is a novella. So, yeah, I finally got that done recently. And I know currently I have a open alpha read going at the moment for True Identities, which is my memoir, which I'll get to in a little bit. But at some point, I'm going to be doing an alpha call for this because, like I said, it is written. I'm not going to do it right now. I'm not going to have it going side by side with that. I might actually wait until early next year, maybe January or something, a little after New Year's. So, be on the lookout for that if that might interest y'all. Like I said, I plan on it to be YA, hopefully. I feel like it fits within that. It's got some darker elements. It might not be as dark as what I had initially intended for it to be. I know when I first got the concept for the story, I wanted a bunch of red herrings. It'd be really dark. But yeah, it is what it is. If it doesn't technically fall under those parameters, alright, I don't really want to change it too much, or I don't really feel the need to change it too much. I want to put it like that. I thought about maybe trying traditionally publish both of my child novellas, which, like I said, Gift of a Child and The Ballad of a Child are companion novellas to each other. So I will probably, I've had in my mind, I want to release them on the same day, at the exact same time. I haven't really written much on The Ballad of a Child yet, but I want to release it when it's finally released at the same time, and I would like to pursue traditional publish for those. If not, that's fine. I'll try it, attempt it, because I feel like there's more stuff in that I'd be willing to change. That they like, this needs to change a little bit to kind of fit this audience or this or that, whatever. I'd be more lenient to change that than like what I would have, say, METAGORE or something. So I might try that, and if it doesn't get picked up, I'm perfectly okay with self-publishing it. I ain't got a problem with it. It's just, yeah, it is what it is. So, um, I currently finished that. Finished the epilogue, which is all I had left, um, this month for NaNoWriMo. So I got that done. The Ballad of a Child, which, like I mentioned, is a companion novel. I have it outlined, and I've got the prologue written for it. Um, I've been going through. I went through one chapter, and I plan on doing more and making my outlines. I like them thick. My outlines, that is. I've been going back and making my outlines thicker. Going more detail because I just kind of bare boned it when I first wrote down the outline, just so I can kind of try to match up the two stories since they are companions to each other. Not a lot of events and portions like overlap from one story to the other, but there are some, so I'll try to make sure it all lined up properly. So I just kind of did the bare minimum at that point. So I've been going back and outlining it very thoroughly, making it thicker. So yeah, that's, I have no idea when I'll actually start writing it, but hopefully I'll get that outline mostly updated by the end of the month. Some of my other fantasy stuff, like Aegea, I've got it conceptualized. I've been world building. I just don't really know exactly where I want to go with the story. I know I want a story focused on there. And like a lot of my fantasy stories, I would like to try to do something that could only happen there. Or maybe not only happen there, but it's specific to this. So I'm not sure exactly what the plots of the story will be or what the story in general will be. Originally, when I got the idea, I was thinking something kind of like gladiator type tournament or battles to have somebody as the winner who marries into royalty, because Aegea is very female centric government. And I had actually sat down to try to outline something about that a few years ago. And about that time, I came across Jenna Marazzi, and she had just released, or was in the process of releasing, The Savior's Champion, which is basically that concept in a sense. They're not very woman-centric or whatever, but, the Savior is female. They have this tournaments or whatever when she's of age for the winner to be married to her and become like the king or the sovereign or whatever. So I was like, that's very similar. I don't want people thinking I'm ripping her off, so I was like, I'll just put this on the back burner, not really worry about it right now, because I'm still working on METAGORE. I've got all these other ideas. I'll give it some time. And since then, I don't know. I've kind of fell out of love with that idea of a concept, so I'm trying to think of something else that might possibly work for Aegea. Not really sure. After that, I got The Conquest of Long Isle, which I know the overall concept. I want there to be a conquest of the Long Isle, which is a Shane, which is a long continent on my world. But I don't know if I'm going to break it down in multiple books, which more likely it probably will be. I don't really know all the minute struggles and this and that in the plot line, the subplots, or anything. I don't know the characters. I don't know when I want it to be. I don't know if it's going to be closer to when it is first discovered and everybody's trying to conquer the land and claim it, or if I want somebody from nowhere come over here and be like, you know what, I'm just going to conquer this shit. Fuck y'all. And basically be like, Game of Thrones and the Targaryens coming over and conquering Westeros and stuff like that. I don't really know exactly what way I want to go with it. So I might be trying to figure that out. I seriously doubt I'll get to outlining it this month, but that is something that I might kind of do a little bits, maybe. I don't know. And then there's A Dire Fall, which is going to be my Romeo and Juliet tragedy type of story. It takes place, I think, mainly in Dire Fell, which is kind of how I got Dire Fall, Dire Fell, whatever. And a little bit in Penora. Dire Fell borders Penora. I don't really know the main plots or all of that just yet. I do have Penora's history somewhat kind of thought of, all that backstory and history, world building for Penora done, as well as Dire Fell. But I don't have it as well as I have METAGORE in the time being. So there's still a lot I can do world building wise. I'm trying to figure out exactly what I'm going to, how I'm going to do it, come across, put all the pieces together and things. But yeah, I know I want it to be like a romantic tragedy type, whatever, type of ordeal. I don't really know the plots. I do know that the main character is going to be female. She's going to be from Panora and get sent over to Direfell. And besides that, I really don't know what else. Then I have Regus Mortem. I think that's how you pronounce it. Regus, something. It's Latin. I don't know Latin. I don't know how to pronounce it. I just know how it's spelled. And it means royal death. I know that much. And this is going to be my fantasy, sci-fi, futuristic murder mystery type story. It's outlined completely. I have it completely outlined. I got a feeling it's not going to be that long of a story. I don't know if it's going to be an actual novella. It might be. I don't know. It might be a little bit longer than novella. But either way, it is fully outlined. It still needs to be thicker for my liking. So I'll probably be going through this month and bumping that up some. And I might even start actually writing on it some. I did finish the outline so far this month. So that's added to some of my work count. But majority of it's been outlined for a while. But I might start, like I said, writing on it. I am going to go through and make it thicker. But yeah. Also, I have my METAGORE series, which, I got the Battle 4 already published. Sovereign Duties is basically done. I'm going through revisions still. I've been kind of slacking and kind of like, I might do like a chapter, a couple scenes, and then I'm just like, whatever. I'll work on something else. A Rise of Power, which is book 3 in my METAGORE series, is outlined, completely outlined. Some of the stuff needs to be a little bit thicker. There are a couple chapters where it's just like a placeholder right now. I was like, I want something here. I just don't know what. I don't want something to do with these characters, maybe, or at least this kingdom pertaining, because it hadn't been mentioned in a while in the story. So there are a couple chapters where it's like this. It's there. It really has nothing to do with anything because it's nothing right now. So I still need to go through and make the outline a little bit better, a little thicker, and kind of figure out exactly all these subplots and all that kind of stuff I want going on. And then Inflamed Insignia for METAGORE, the last book in the series. I have it outlined in here just a little bit. I know the main concepts and some of the events I want to happen, but the overall outline, I don't. And usually I try not to outline the next book in the series until the first draft of the book before is. So I didn't outline Sovereign Duties until METAGORE's first draft was done, or actually it was later than that, but you get the point. I didn't outline Rise of Power until the first draft of Sovereign Duties was done, so that way I have more of an idea exactly what's going into it, because usually my drafts don't change that much. I mean, it might change up some, but not the overall plot. So, and then my last fantasy thing that I'm going to be working on is Tagrex Halls, which is like a spin-off origin story of Brighton and Kalama from a METAGORE series about how they met. It's an origin story. It takes place mostly in Panora. It takes place a little bit in METAGORE at the very beginning, possibly a little bit at the end. I don't know. I've got 4 or 5 chapters of that written and no outline. I had outlines for those chapters as I was writing them. I know an overall outline in my mind, but it's got to the point where it's like I need an outline to figure out exactly where I'm going to go from here. So what I am going to be doing is trying to work on that outline some this month. Hopefully, maybe, I don't know. But that's my different stories for D.L. Stewart. And then I have stuff that I'm going to be publishing as Peter Gracie. First and foremost, my memoir, the slightly altered True Identities of the Five Boys, True Identities for short, which is my memoir. I just have an open alpha read. I keep stumbling on my words. Deal with it. I have open alpha call right now. People reading it really appreciate the feedback. It seems to be, pretty well liked by most people. There's a few spots where it kind of drug on a little bit. A few spots where they're like, give me more of this, or expand upon this or whatever, which is to be expected. It's first draft and all that. But it is out being alpha read at the moment. It was only the first 26 chapters. If y'all see my open alpha call, it kind of mentioned that. It's just 26 chapters out of like probably 100 or plus chapters for the memoir. But it's going to be broken down into parts. And that was the first part. So that's what I sent out. So I will be going in and maybe writing some more for part 2. And then some of my other stories. I got The Banishment, It might be a 2-book series. I don't know if I'm going to do a duology or if it's just going to be a standalone or what. But it is my Christian, if you want to call it that, book. I don't really know if you'd want to label it as Christian. It's like a fantasy spiritual ordeal. It deals with Lucifer's banishment from heaven. It doesn't go directly off of like the Bible or, hard Christian facts type ordeals. It does diverge into other religious ideologies and like the Dead Sea Scrolls and stuff like that, which are scrolls that were found that were apparently going to be put into the Bible, and then they was rejected. There are books that have been removed from the Bible that the Roman Catholics or something at one point decided that didn't really fit their ideology, how they interpret it, and what the message that they wanted to present to be. So they removed books. There's books that wanted to be accepted into it that they denied, this and that. So yeah, but there's all kinds of different stuff. There's books of Adam and Eve, the theory of Lilith, as well, being Adam's first wife, and different things like that. I'm going to incorporate into the story, so it's not just straight Christian or whatever. It's some of my own personal beliefs as well as this other stuff that I'm like, maybe not, but I'm going to put it into the same ways because it's still a work of fiction when it's all said and done. But it's going to be Lucifer's banishment from heaven, and then the fall of the other angels, or some of the other angels, the fallen ones, that he took with him, all the way through Revelations, in a sense. So the first book, I was thinking about just kind of delving in to Lucifer's banishment and the banishment of the other angels. That's one of the stories just called The Banishment. And then the second one was going to be called The Banishment Revelations, or maybe just Revelations or something. I don't know. And that would be the war between angels and demons, in end times. But I don't know. I might just kind of throw that in the end of The Banishment. And then another story I got is Blood Games. That is another story. I think out of all of these stories, right now, METAGORE is like probably the closest to my heart for my D.L. Stewart things. That's one that means the most to me. That's my baby. For my Peter Gracie stories, of course, my memoir, because that's real life, nostalgia reasons. But besides that, I would say Blood Games is probably the closest one to me that I really am in love with writing and the world and stuff. And I haven't really written that much. I've written like a scene, not even a full scene to it, and that's it. And it starts off with a fight scene. I love writing fight scenes. And as y'all can tell from the cover, it's not like fantasy or whatever. Like, it's Peter Gracie, so it's not sword fights. It's not magic and this and that. It's more of a MMA type, mixed martial arts, street brawl. But the overall concept, I had a little hard time kind of coming up with. I knew like the world building and I wouldn't say the mood of the story, but kind of like what was going on around him, some of the struggles he was going to have to go with. But I didn't know really the plot, if that makes sense. Since I have started outlining, I've got, I want to think, at least half of the story outlined, maybe more. I don't really know how long the story is going to be. But I've got several chapters outlined of it. It's not done. I still need to keep on doing, which I have been working on this month. So that's some more of the stuff I've been working on. But I'm planning on trying to finish the outline, maybe, this month. And maybe at least writing the first chapter. Because I feel like it's probably a little over halfway written, the first chapter. It's only one scene, and the scene's really not even completely done. There's still a few more things that needs to happen, some dialogue and stuff that needs to take place. But after that, I feel like the second scene will be shorter. And there might actually be 2 scenes after this, and both of them will be, I think, combined still shorter than that first one. So, yeah. Another one is Bullet Wounds, which I had written probably at least half of that story a long time ago before I ever decided to actually write. I had actually started on a story back in high school called Azate, which has since changed to Let But Not Forgotten, which I'll get to right after this. And Bullet Wounds was going to be like the third installment to that story. It was going to be a trilogy. eventually I was like, this, no, I was just coming up with the most random, crazy, off the wall things and throwing it all together for a story. I was like, this just doesn't make sense. So I was like, Bullet Wounds is not going to be within the story because it's not plausible. So it's just going to be its own standalone story with different characters and all this. So I need to go back and change it because there are references to my Left But Not Forgotten series and the main character and all this. I mean, you can tell it's the same character pretty heavily with some of the dialogue, talking about what's happened in the past and stuff. So I need to change all of that. And then, like I mentioned, Left But Not Forgotten, which is my Zate story, I started writing in high school. I actually started with the second book, Zate's Revenge. And yeah, like I said, I was just kind of throwing a bunch of random things together and wrote that, and then started on Bullet Wounds. And then I was like, yeah, nope. So I went back. I've kind of scrapped basically all that I had written for Left But Not Forgotten 2, Zate's Revenge. I've kept some of the basic concepts and some of the scenes and stuff, but it's mainly been scrapped. And I've re-outlined it. It's not thick outline, so I might go back this month and do that if I get to it. Kind of thicken that outline. And then the first book, which I actually wrote after I've written the second and what I've written for Bullet Wounds, it was like, you know what, let's do a prequel. So I went back and started writing it, which will actually be the first book in the series, or the duology or whatever. And I've got it outlined. Again, it's not thick outlines, it's small outlines, because this is back in high school and I wasn't doing this shit seriously or anything at that point. And yeah, I would say probably besides Blood Games, I would say this is my baby since I've had it, in my mind since, I don't know, I was in 9th grade. So fucking what, 2004, 2005, somewhere there. So, I mean, this story does have, it means a lot to me. I want to release it at some point. I don't want to erase it. I erase the second book, restarting. But I want to release it at some point, I have a story called The Demon Thieves, which was actually a dream I had one night, and I woke up and I just liked it so much that I had to sit down and just write what I can remember from the dream. I've read over that outline, if you want to call it that, a while or a few times, and it's very choppy and parts of it makes no sense. It's a dream, so I'm gonna have to kind of go through and kind of make it make sense, or change those portions of it. But I enjoyed it. It's called The Demon Thieves. It's kind of fantasy, but it doesn't take place in my fantasy world, and it's not just 100% fantasy. It's, I guess, like urban fantasy or something. It was like this group of, I can't remember, 4, maybe 5 guys, or whatever. They were thieves, bank robbers and stuff, and they each had a different type of magical ability. And the main bad guy, or whatever, the leader of the group, was a fire spitter, which is kind of what the cover resemblizes and stuff. And I thought at first maybe trying to write a series and focusing on each of the thieves as the main bad guy for each series. So the first one would be the fire spitter. There's one that could control like technology and interrupt like radio waves and stuff like that. Another one could just kind of teleport, vanish, whatever, from place to place and stuff like that. So I thought about that. I don't know if I will or not. I might just write this as a standalone from basically my dream, and that's about it. I don't know. But yeah, the outline needs work, so I might work on that if I get to it. And then last but not least are my junkies stories, my dirt junkies, or dirt junkies, not mine, dirt junkies and pain junkies, which is like a demolition derby banger race type story that's me and one of my friends kind of came up with. It's been a few years ago now, back when I was working factories. He likes video games. I like video games. I love derby games and this and that. I like going to derbies and stuff. And he was talking about, a derby game that actually has a story. Well, not just like racing and stuff, but like an actual story. And I started kind of coming up with different ideas for the story. I know a couple people that are in the game industry or whatever that makes games. I haven't talked to them in years now, but at that point I was kind of, still talking to them a lot. And so I pitched them the idea. Of course, they was like, yeah, it's not really up our alley. Come on, they didn't make that kind of games. They made like FPSs, first person shooters. stuff like that. But yeah, I was thinking about writing a story kind of based off of some of those concepts that I had came up with for those stories. It would be somewhat of a tragedy in a sense. I don't want to spoil anything, but pain junkies. The main character goes through some stuff, family crisis and things like that. That's basically all the stories I'm working on. And I am kind of doing nano and trying to use that to help work on all of these stories for the most part. Actually, I don't think I mentioned my short story collection that I plan on doing, which will be under as D.L. Stewart. I'm just all over the place. I'm sorry. This is what you get. I don't outline stuff. I don't whatever. I have literally a thing that just has the name of kind of the stories, so I can remember, so I don't forget those. But besides that, I have no outline. This is what I do. I just talk and ramble. But yeah, I have a short story collection that I plan on doing. I don't really have that many short story ideas yet, but it will encompass all of the Lands of the Abyss from all kinds of different time periods and stuff, just like a history, lore book. Yeah. I thought about doing one for the Flood of Flames, which takes place in METAGORE, which is when Mount Doom and Centuries first erupts and stuff. Kind of point of view of a character, or a character, yeah. Point of view of a child or whatever that's in that scenario and having to flee their home because of this volcanic eruption. That was going to be a little short story. I've kind of got that actually started, I believe, or at least outlined. And then a few other little stories here and there, which my short stories, so they're going to be little. But I think I might only have like 2 or 3, maybe 3, that I plan on doing for that so far. So that will probably be years and years down the road whenever I have a good collection, I guess, of stories to put in it. But yeah. But besides that, that's what I'm planning on doing, is working on a little bit of all of those if I can. If not, at least work on the ones that are already outlined. Maybe make the outlines thicker. Start writing a little bit on them. Maybe somewhat. I don't know. I will get 50,000 words out of all of that eventually this month, hopefully. I think right now I am not at the mark I need to be at. I've took a couple days off, like 4 that I haven't written anything from. I know I'm not where I would need to be, to meet my goal with whatever recommended thing that they give. But I also know a couple years ago, I just said, fuck it, partway through the month, and then on the last day or maybe the day before the last, I was like, I'm going to do this. And I sat down and did it. I know I've written 10K a day for some of those 10K day challenges multiple times. I can do it. I know if I want to sit down and actually write it, I will. So getting 50,000 words, I ain't too stressed about. I'm sure I can do it. So yeah. But that's where I stand right now. Hope y'all enjoy this video. As long as rambly, it's just kind of going over some of my stories. But that's an update. Hope y'all enjoyed it. If not, okay, I don't care. Peace out. ELE. Everybody love everybody.